Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back again with another episode. I'm absolutely thrilled to have back Darrell Beauchamp, the Executive Director of the Museum of Western Art in Kerrville, Texas. Darrell, welcome back.
Hey, man, thanks. I appreciate it.
Darrell, we're recording this in late February, and I wanted to maybe catch up with you. You had some great exhibits at the end of 2024 and early 2025, and see if we could maybe get a preview of what you got upcoming.
Probably the biggest thing we've got coming up is our 42nd annual Roundup exhibition and sale. It's our annual fundraiser, kicks off the weekend of April the 25th with a 3-day big event. It's a fundraiser for the museum. We'll have 180 works on site, all for sale, generated by 72 or 3 artists. The number changes daily depending on if they can get me images, but it's our biggest fundraiser of the year, and it's one that'll take us into the heart of the summer, all the way through the 1st of June. And then we kick off a series of really good exhibitions. We have a photography show by Rachel Spencer coming up. It's called Icons of the American West. And it's exciting because it's photography, which is one of the things I really love. And a lot of museums don't want to do photography, but we don't mind doing an occasional show in photography. Rachel is known mostly and a lot for polo work, polo ponies and photographs of polo matches, but she was willing to take on icons of the American West. So she spent the last couple of years going around the world with the American West, photographing the big animals, the musk ox, even polar bear, grizzly bears, the big animals of the American West, mustangs, things like that. And we think it's just going to be real exciting, all black and white, which is going to be really cool. And she has a very dramatic flair for lighting, and I think everybody's really going to enjoy that show. In this fall, we kick off a show of works by Walt Gonski, who's one of the most famous impressionist Western artists in America. And Walt is one of the senior members of the Western art world. He's in his mid-80s, and it's just put together a series called the Church. It's the Church series, and it's three versions of the Church of the American West. The facades, we actually do the church in a landscape, and the facade of the church, and then either an interior of the church or the cemetery. And so the compost. And so that's exciting to be a part of. We wrap up our year with 2 artists, abstract Western, believe it or not, Kathleen Frank and Mark Yale Harris. And both those are both exciting, different kinds of looks at the American West. In addition to that, we've always got our permanent collection up, which is the more traditional look at the American West. And we're booking things into 2028 already, which is kind of hard to believe.
Tell us about the upcoming event around the sale, because it's not just a sale. It really is a celebration.
Yeah, it's a celebration
of the artist and the museum.
Yeah, we try to
tell us a little about that.
A lot of living artists will be present. They're all living that'll be present. We have 70 some odd artists, and they gather for the weekend, and we toast and fet them, do a lot of demonstrations for the public. It's a chance to come in and meet American Western artists of all genres. And we spend the weekend just having a great time at the museum. When the museum first started in 83, the Cowboy Artists of America Museum, they used to get together to have skeet shoots. They have golf tournaments. They'd have sheep chasing. There was a lot of things that went on. And it's been pointed out to me, all that crowd that used to tried to ride the muttons and mutton busting, they're now in their 80s. And so there's not a lot of mutton busting that we do, but we get together and have a lot of breakfast, a lot of dinners, good luncheons with the artist. We do demonstrations. A lot of them are out there, teaching and doing classes, things like that.
They're also at the museum engaging in creation of art.
And all of it happens at the museum. Yeah. They're creating art, and they're doing their demonstrations there, on site, which is exciting to see a lot of artists next to their works that are for sale. They'll be positioned in front with their easels and all that, doing the art, sketching, drawing, and engaging the public. And a lot of people come from around the country to see them because they're in person. They're here. They're live. And that's always a lot of fun.
So I hope you can sit down with some of the artists, because I will share with you, last year at that same event, several of the wives of artists told me how much they enjoyed your podcast, and that their husbands had the chance to sit down and just talk about art.
And thanks for the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network. I need to get some more instruction on how to make some of that happen. What I find is that I love to do them in person, like we're doing here in the studio, but it's not always possible, because when we have a group together like that, it's hard to find 30 minutes to break away from the crowd and the hubbub and all that's going on. So I need to start doing them more by Zoom or by some way of doing it electronically so they can be wherever they are. We've got artists who are coming to this show from New Jersey, from Florida, Georgia, all over the American West, Wyoming, Montana, California, Oregon, New Mexico. And when they come, I'd love to sit down with every one of them and do a podcast, but it's just tough. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I've got to get online and get them done. But yeah, we do a podcast, award-winning podcast, thanks to you guys. And in last year, we did about 25. And so we have 25 podcasts out there, and our goal is to have 25, 30 more this year and just keep that going because there's a lot of art that can be talked about. It's called It's Art. Let's talk about it. So it's really pretty simple. People say, what do you talk about? We talk about art. We talk about their lives, their careers, the art world in general. And sometimes it's philosophical. A lot of times it's just lighthearted and fun.
So I was wondering if you might take a look back over the past couple of months, or maybe 3 months of exhibits at the museum and talk about how the response was. We had a kind of a pop-up show, and I think early November, maybe late October.
Kevin McPherson, yeah.
And that was his lake.
His show, yeah, a little pond at
Right.
his place, Kevin McPherson's pond series. He took and painted his pond outside his window of his home there in Taos every day for 5 years so that he would get a January 1 through December 31st representation of that pond on every single day of the year, and ended up with 368 individual images, different pieces, and they're all exactly the same size. They're all exactly the same scene, and they are all completely different, which was really unique depending on the light, his interpretation of it. And it was just fabulous. And that's thanks to Hines Fine Art, San Antonio. Janice Hines and her crew were hosting Kevin for an event, and we got to talking, and he said they're in the car if you want a bunch of them. And we said we took 70 of them, is all we could put on our walls, and had a little space in one of our galleries, and we put it together. And like I say, it became a pop-up, which is really pretty cool.
Yeah. And then you had two artists exhibiting, one of whom is either the in-house artist or the in-house sculptor. I'm not quite sure how to refer to Jason.
Sculptor, Jason Scull. Yeah, he's our in-house artist in resident. We have an artist in residence program, and he's kind of become the permanent artist in resident because he and Diane live here in Kerrville. And it's fun to have a guy who can come onto site and create every day. And he goes about his business, and people can drop by and ask him about how it's done. And he shows them. He's real affable, and he shows them how it's created and kind of walks them through the process and gets to know a lot of people and represents us real well there at the casita at the museum, which is unusual for museums. Honestly, a lot of museums don't have what we have in an artist in residence. And we're thrilled because he's kind of my go-to guy. He's on my advisory board. And if it's a question about sculpture, Jason's the guy I go to. And I think he's one of the, if not the best, one of the top 5 sculptors in America right now.
So how was his show received together with Noe?
He had a show with Noe Perez. Noe is a Gulf Coast painter who paints mostly South Texas and King Ranch. He's known kind of unofficially as King Ranch painter, the artist of the King Ranch. And they got together. We started talking to them about 3 years ago about putting together aesthetics of South Texas, or we ended up calling the show the South Texas Aesthetic. It's hard to say. And it was Noe's interpretation of South Texas and Jason's in sculpture. And we sold out, which is great. Yeah. So made a little fundraiser for both the museum and the artist. And we had it in one gallery and had incredible. And that's the thing about it, all our openings recently. We've had over 100, 150 people in a lot of them. I know you guys come a lot, and we appreciate that. But, man, it's just success is a great thing to be having right now.
So we've lived here since 21, and my observation has been just a steady growth in people coming to the museum. Early on, I attributed to that, well, we're out of COVID and people are finally getting out again. But it seems to me with just the stunning quality of the shows you have, and then the 40th and the shows after that, it's just building on itself. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, it didn't hurt that Nancy Foster is the hardest working marketing lady in the world, marketing director in the world, and that she is so good at getting the work out there. She pounds social media. She's making sure that I'm doing podcasts. She's making sure that we're in the news. And it's not just local news, right? I mean, we had national write-ups. Tim Newton, the publisher of Western Art and Architecture magazine, called our Scott Christensen Kwang Ho show last year the best in the nation. And just that, to a guy who has 50,000 followers, that says a lot. And they flocked to see it. Every time these people at all the magazines, Art of the West magazine, Andy Crane is the publisher, said, what a gem, what a beautiful little museum. And boy, you just can't miss it if you're in the central South Texas region. We have a lot of people who listen to those guys and gals, and people are just flocking in. We stop them at the door to introduce ourselves and welcome to the museum, give them a little tour, guided, or let them be on their own. And always we ask them, how'd you hear about us? We heard about you on this national publication or that national radio show. And so it's fun when the word gets out there, and we have a quality product. And yet I can go into a local burger joint with my badge on, and people say, we have a museum here in Kerrville. And I get it, but people are busy here. But we have people come from all 50 states and 23 countries last year. And that was impressive. That's something fun to see. But I think it's quality of programming. It's certainly the building. It's the quality of our art. Our permanent collection is second to none. And then if you bring in good rotating shows that give people something good to see, I think they come. And so far that's been proven out. Numbers are up every year.
You've also had an addition to what I'm going to call your sculpture garden, although I don't think you call it that. But you had some very large sculptures brought over. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was fun. A little bit of controversy over in Fredericksburg. The former Texas Rangers Foundation is in the process of building the former Texas Rangers Museum. And they started in 2014, 11 years ago. No, I'm sorry, 2010, 14 years ago. And their goal is to build a museum there in Fredericksburg. And the city of Fredericksburg leased to them 12 acres right outside of Fredericksburg. They're on the highway towards Johnson City and right next to Fort Scott. Yeah, Fort Martin Scott. And they put in a parking lot and a clock tower and a bell tower and a big pavilion and big bronzes. They've been adding to it. And they've run into a little bit of a controversy in that the city has evicted them from their property. And so I had said a year or so ago to the director of that, Joe Davis, that if you ever need a place to just park your bronzes, Museum of Western Art will gladly come and get them. And I was half joking when I said that when this controversy first started up, but it's gone into court with them between the city and the foundation over there. And they just needed a place to park it. And so I told Joe, I said, my goodness, the Texas Rangers have been coming to the assist and the aid of Texans, since the beginning of the Republic. We're just thrilled that we're able to come to the aid of the Texas Rangers. And he said, you can come get them and park them at your place. And if and when they get this worked out with the city of Fredericksburg, or they decide on another location, we'll give them back to them. But 3 massive and beautiful bronzes. The biggest one by Dustin Payne, 6,000 pounds, 16 feet long, 12 feet tall, 12 feet wide, 4 horse figures and 3 mounted riders and 1 guy standing next to his horse, all Texas Rangers from the 1800s to the present. It's called The Lore, the Legacy, and the Law. And $1 million piece by Dustin Payne. He's a famous CA artist, Cowboy Artist of America member. 2 other lesser known works, but they're all spectacular. And we put them right around our flagpole up there at the museum. So they look good. It's a kind of a garden now of sculpture, but yeah, it's fun. We got Major Joe Beeler bronze up there, this Major Dustin Payne, Major Fritz White, some just incredible works. A T.D. Kelsey work called Touching the Sun that's just phenomenal. And I think it gives our entrance kind of a really, people drive up and go, a lot of stuff to look at. Yeah, that's exciting.
So do you have any current exhibits going on at the museum or anything maybe from March up until our April event?
In March 15th, we'll close the current show. And that'll give us a month between the shows where we're going to put up works from our permanent collection. But we currently have a show in cooperation with Frontier Times Museum in Bandera. It's called The Mac Cowboys. And it's Sherma Lee and Lou Mac, husband and wife sculpting team. And it's mostly little works, small works, but they were sculptors from Bandera. He was a retired Border Patrol agent, and she's been sculpting her whole life. And when he retired, they both got into it full time. And the work is just cute. It's nice. It's wonderful. All put together with the Frontier Times Museum. And that show is going to be up through March the 15th. And we take a little bit of a breather, and then we're going back to our Roundup. Opens, of course, the last weekend of April. It runs through June. And we got shows planned out through 2028 now. That's always fun. People think we wake up on Tuesday trying to decide what we're going to put up, and it doesn't happen.
Throw something together.
Yeah. It's just, you got to plan it. If you're going to be a great museum, one of worthy of the respect we've been getting lately. So we're excited about that.
Darryl, unfortunately, we're near the end of our time for this episode, but if our listeners wanted any more information on the Museum of Western Art, what would be the best place for them to go?
We have a robust website. It's called museumofwesternart.com. And Museum of Western Art, just spell it out. They're on the internet. You can get just almost anything in the world about us there, how to get to us, tickets, buy them early if you want to, photos of the facility. You can even do a fly through the building with that, one of those Google, where you can click on a button and it just takes you from site to site. But Museum of Western Art, or they can always call 830-896-2553. That's the museum's one phone number. And come see us. We're open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 4 or by appointment. I once told somebody I'll meet you at 2 in the morning if I know you're coming. And he actually called and took me up on that. It was late. It wasn't 2 in the morning, but we told them we want people to see it because we believe if we can ever get you up the hill there at 1550 Bandera Highway, if we can ever get you up the hill, we're going to keep you coming back.
I would say amen to that.
And you guys are proof of that. It's a lot of fun when people come into the first time and the building is kind of nondescript, stucco, one of those really who cares kind of facades, like stucco buildings are supposed to be. But it's when you walk in the door, you go, wow, where did all that come from? And you don't expect both the quality of the art and the quality of the building, friendliness of the people, and it's a great place to be.
Darryl, thanks again.
Hey, thanks for having us, and thanks for the support of the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network.